Especial, como vos decís, seguramente mi último mundial, mi última oportunidad de...
In June 2026, Lionel Messi was named in Argentina's squad for the World Cup.
McAllister, Messi!
He was 38 years old. He had been playing international football for 20 years. He had 198 caps and 116 goals. He had won everything there is to win, and he was still there.
He absolutely is. I mean, one of the greatest players to have ever played the game.
There are players who hold on too long, who mistake the inability to leave for a reason to stay. Messi does not feel like that. He feels like something rarer, a player who has earned the right to choose his own ending, and who has chosen to write one more chapter before closing the book.
It's such a special event, the World Cup. You have to expect he's going to turn up for it.
This is the story of Lionel Messi as captain of Argentina. Not the Messi of Barcelona, not the Messi of the Ballon d'Or debates. The Messi who put on the light blue and white shirt and, for years, could not make it feel like home. And then, finally, did.
Argentina are alive! Not giving up.
Lionel Messi made his senior debut for Argentina in August 2005. He was 18 years old. He had already been at Barcelona for 3 years. He had already begun to show what he was going to become. But Argentina was a different kind of weight. This was the country of Maradona, the country that had won the World Cup in 1978 and 1986 and had been chasing that feeling ever since. The country where football is not a sport, but something closer to identity, where the national team carries the expectations of 45 million people every time it takes the field. Messi's first World Cup was Germany 2006. He was 18 years old, the youngest player in the squad. He appeared as a substitute in the first 2 group games, scored in the third. Argentina were eliminated in the quarterfinals by the host nation. It was a beginning, nothing more. 4 years later in South Africa, he was 22 and the undisputed best player in the world. Argentina reached the quarterfinals again. They were beaten 4-0 by Germany in a match that was not as close as the scoreline suggested. Messi played every minute. He did not score. This was the pattern that was beginning to form. At club level, Messi could win anything. With Argentina, something always seemed to fall short. The gap between what he was and what he produced in that shirt started to become a story, and not a flattering one. The period between 2014 and 2016 is the most painful chapter of Messi's international career, and also, in retrospect, the most important. Because it was in those years that the distance between greatness and fulfillment was at its most visible and most cruel. The 2014 World Cup in Brazil, Argentina reached the final. They faced Germany in the Estadio Maracanã in Rio de Janeiro. The game finished 0-0 after 90 minutes. In extra time, Mario Götze scored. Argentina lost 1-0. Messi had been the best player in the tournament. He was given the golden ball. He did not want it. 1 year later, the Copa America in Chile. Argentina reached the final. They faced the host nation. They drew 0-0 after 120 minutes. In the penalty shootout, Messi scored his penalty. Argentina lost. He had been in 3 major finals and won none of them. In 2016, the Copa America Centenario, a special edition of the tournament hosted in the United States, Argentina reached the final again. They faced Chile again. They drew 0-0 again. In the penalty shootout, Messi missed his penalty, the first kick of the shootout. Argentina lost again. After that game, he walked to the microphone and announced his retirement from international football. He was 28 years old. He had been in 4 major finals, 1 World Cup final, and 3 Copa Americas, and had won none of them. The weight had become too much. He came back. 4 months later, after a qualifying campaign in which Argentina were close to missing the World Cup entirely, he scored a hat-trick against Ecuador in the final qualifying match and effectively carried his country to Russia.
To accelerate to look for the hat-trick!
That performance, that return, said more about him than any trophy could. The Copa America. 2021 was played in Brazil during the pandemic. There were no fans in most venues. The tournament had been moved from its original hosts at short notice. The conditions were strange. The setting was improbable. Argentina played the final at the Maracanã in Rio de Janeiro, the same stadium where 7 years earlier they had lost the World Cup final to Germany. They faced Brazil, the hosts, the favorites, the team that had not lost a competitive match at home in years. Angel Di Maria scored the only goal of the game. Argentina won 1-0. Lionel Messi had his first major international title. He was 33 years old. What happened after the final whistle has become one of the defining images of his career. He sat on the pitch, alone for a moment before his teammates reached him, and he wept. Not the tears of relief exactly. Something deeper than that. The release of everything that had been building since 2006, since 2014, since that penalty in New Jersey in 2016. It was not just a title. It was the proof that the story had not been written yet, that the ending was still available. 3 years later, at the Copa America 2024 on home soil in the United States, Argentina won again. 1-0 against Colombia in the final. Messi, at 36, played 65 minutes before going off injured. The title was retained, the dynasty was confirmed, and the conversation about what he still had left shifted permanently. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar is already one of the great sporting stories of the modern era. It is the tournament that gave Messi everything he had been denied for 16 years, in the most dramatic way possible. It did not begin well. In the first group game, Argentina lost 1-2 to Saudi Arabia, a result so surprising it felt like the script had been torn up before it had even started. But what followed was the clearest demonstration of what this team and this captain had become. They won their remaining group games. They beat Australia in the round of 16, the Netherlands on penalties in the quarterfinals, Croatia 3-0 in the semifinals. And then the final, against France, against Kylian Mbappe, against the team that had beaten them in the round of 16 4 years earlier. The final in Lusail was extraordinary. Argentina led 2-0 with 10 minutes to play. France scored twice in 90 seconds. 3-3 after extra time. Penalties. Emiliano Martinez. Argentina won. Messi played every minute of every game. 7 matches, 690 minutes. He scored twice and created goals throughout. His on-off differential across the tournament, the measure of how many more goals Argentina scored per 90 minutes with him on the pitch compared to without him, was plus 0.91. Nearly a full goal of difference every time he was on the field. When he lifted the trophy in Lusail, wrapped in the bisht, the traditional black cloak placed on him by the Emir of Qatar, it was one of the most iconic images in the history of the sport. 35 years old, 5 World Cups, 162 international goals at that point. And finally, the one thing that had been missing. And so we arrive here. The summer of 2026, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, the largest World Cup in history. 48 teams, and among them, wearing the number 10 shirt of Argentina, a 38-year-old man from Rosario who has nothing left to prove and everything left to give. There is a particular kind of player who stays beyond the point of necessity, who comes back not because they need to, but because the game still needs them, or because they are not yet ready to let it go. Messi does not feel like a player holding on. He feels like a player who knows exactly what this moment is, and who has chosen to be present for it. He played 12 qualifying matches for this tournament. 944 minutes, at 37 and 38 years of age, against the best defenses in South America. He was still there, still contributing, still the player Argentina built around. The question this World Cup raises is not whether Messi can still play. He can. The question is what it means, for him, for Argentina, for football, that he is here at all. There are careers that define a club. There are careers that define an era. And then there are careers that define a country's relationship with the sport. Messi's international career is the third kind. From the crying teenager in 2004, watching his club teammates celebrate a European championship he had no part in, to the captain who lifted the World Cup in Qatar, to the man who chose to come back one more time, the arc is almost too complete to be believed. What comes after him is Argentina's problem. There will be players. There always are. But there will not be another Messi. There will not be another career that carries the weight his did, absorbs the criticism his did, and delivers at the level his did for as long as his did. When this tournament ends, whenever that moment comes, in whatever stadium, after whatever result, the light blue and white shirt will still exist. Argentina will still play. But something irreplaceable will have left the field for the last time. That is what this World Cup is. Not just a tournament. The last chapter of the most important international career of this generation. And the only appropriate response to that is not sadness. It is gratitude. 198 caps, 116 goals, 5 World Cups, 1 World Cup title, 2 Copa Americas. the most complete international career an Argentine player has ever had. What matters now is this. Lionel Messi is here, at 38, in the last chapter. And he is still, unmistakably, himself. Thanks for watching Football Dynasty. This is episode 2 of our National Team Captains series. Episode 1 covered Cristiano Ronaldo. If you haven't seen it, it's linked on screen now. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode.